All right, we are recording now. Hello, everyone. This is Tuesday, November 7th, and this is the Kubernetes SIG Docs meeting. All docs, all Kubernetes, all the time. So let's go to our agenda. First thing, do we have any new attendees today, people who are new to the SIG meeting? So we have a guest, Fabrizio Pandini, but this is not his first SIG Docs meeting. So we'll simply wave hello and say, I'm glad you're here. All right, let's see. Steve Perry is not here. He has got another meeting going on, but there was an issue in this SIG Docs email group that came up about search engine results for Kubernetes deployment. And Amit noted that the top result is paid advertising, and that this represents a possible problem for Kubernetes documentation, in that paid results for search engine pages related to Kubernetes content may take precedence over actual searches for documentation. And is this type of thing something that we should be concerned about? So I raised that issue with Dan, the CEO of the Linux Foundation. And Dan's response is, one, it's not that problematic, and more to the point, there's nothing that we can do about it. So I guess we observe it and move on. All right, so let's move on to improving Kube admin reference. Fabrizio wanted to talk with us briefly about a specific PR, and yeah, let's. What would you like to say about it?
So this is an effort that I started 2 weeks ago with the support of some folks from SIG Docs. I sent a PR, which now is marked as a work in progress. I collected some feedback from the SIG cluster lifecycle, fixed, and were mostly technical review. And from the perspective of the SIG cluster lifecycle, we consider the approach, the look and feel, and whatever, fine. And I want to know if from the SIG there are some remarks, blocker, or no comment on this PR, and go ahead removing the work in progress flag, and make the PR go through the normal approval flow. So if there are some remarks, we can discuss here now, or please, you can add the comment to the PR, up to you.
Excellent. Let's see, I am not immediately familiar with this PR. Andrew, do you have any thoughts on this PR 6103 for improving Kube admin reference docs?
Let me pull it up real quick.
Sure thing.
6103.
I explained briefly in the meantime what I did, basically following Jennifer's suggestion, and also suggested from other colleagues, is to split up the existing Kubernetes reference man page, which is quite longer and complex, in 5 or 6 reference page, one for each main Kubernetes command. And in this page, what I'm doing, I'm mixing the generated docs, which are included, with a part which is manually maintained, that gives some additional extra content. This was the goal. So to have something generated, but also something which is value added, additional input that is difficult to add in the Cobra documentation.
Excellent. I wish that Joe Heck was here because he's been looking at automation and automation docs in our repo a lot lately. I'm delighted to see this work going on in progress, Fabrizio. I think we'd like to take a look at it, and if you are okay sitting on this for, can we revisit this in 1 week? Is that, are you pressed for time? Is there
No, this PR targets the 1.9 release. So I'm not, I have time to do this. It's not a problem for me waiting for another week.
Okay, excellent. I think we'd like to take a look at it and just become more familiar about what it is, what the scope of the PR entails. I can't think of any reason why we wouldn't be absolutely delighted to have improvements to the reference doc. But I think we'd like to be able to. I think we'd like to be more conversant in the specifics of the PR and take a look at it more in depth. So if you don't mind, would you like to come back and visit with us again next week, or we can simply leave comments in the PR and.
As you prefer. I can leave a work in progress, I can remove it, or I can just pop up the next week. Up to you.
Yeah, leave it as a work in progress right now. And then for the automated side, for the auto-generated docs, touch base with Steve Perry, because he's sort of spearheading like the auto-generated docs for the whole site. So we want to make sure they're supposed to go into the docs reference generated directory. So that's what we're working towards right now. And then I'll take a look at the rest of the Kube admin stuff and comment on the PR.
So Joe and I have both been commenting on Fabrizio's proposal too, and so I know that Joseph's familiar with it. And he and I both think it's a good idea. There's a little more to the Kube ADM docs because there is, in addition to the generated stuff, some manually curated content. And there's comments in the proposal, not in the PR, about how to handle that. Just FYI. I can put my comments about how to handle that in the PR if you'd rather have them there. Or I'll take a look at the PR because I've only looked at the proposal in the docs.
That would be excellent. And instead of if you don't want to replicate the comments,
I don't care.
Places, you can just link to it. It would be just as helpful.
Okay. I'll check. Today is my day for starting duplicate efforts and then realizing I should go back and check the state of things.
That's awesome that you have that down to like 1 day. I do that all the time.
Oh well, yes, but I mean today seems to be one after another.
It's like the patron saint day of duplicated effort.
Something like that.
Excellent. Okay.
But what I think, I hope that I catch that I understood all your comment in the proposal and implemented properly in the PR. So
yeah, I'll take a look, Fabrizio, and I'm sorry I haven't followed up on this properly.
Not a problem. Hopefully I did it right, but of course I will appreciate the feedback.
Awesome. Fabrizio, thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but thank you for surfacing this for our attention and for bringing this to the SIG.
Just one question that I didn't understand properly: if I have to remove work in progress or leave it?
Keep it for now. Leave the work in progress tag on the issue, and by next week we will have an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
And then one small note, the Travis test is failing because when you add new docs, you'll also need to add them to the table of contents somewhere. But I'll put a note in the PR.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on. Okay, we're going to talk about doc sprints at KubeCon now. So Jennifer, you and I talked last week on Friday, but would you like to give us an update on the suitability of user journeys for a doc sprint at KubeCon?
Okay, I will try to just briefly recapitulate our conversation. At the highest level, you know, for the other folks who've been working on the user journeys, I think that user journeys at the level of user journeys aren't suitable. I do think that there is work to support individual user journeys that is suitable. And what I committed to Zach to doing was, for example, taking a look at Steve's issues and seeing where they overlap or where I might suggest like adjustments to them, the ones in Steve's project, to support specific things for the foundational app developer user journey that I've been working on. For example, you know, I've done a content audit of the Minikube content, and that could use some cleanup so that we've got cleaner entry points and ways of explaining things that are consistent and reflect maybe a beginner experience a little better. I'm now looking at networking. That's the next one that came up in my work on the user journey yesterday, and then it came up again in conversation with a Heptio dev today. Steve already has an issue against the networking content, so I need to go take a look at that and see whether that might be a good one to do. So there's going to be some intersections between work to support user journeys and work that's already identified in issues. But I'm starting from the what the user journeys could use thing. And I'm thinking that the cluster operator user journey that that Joseph again has been working on, I'm hoping that that'll be another one where we can take the same approach, use that as a way of identifying either existing issues in Steve's project or other areas of content that could use some more sustained work. Even if the work can't be completed during a sprint, get it started, you know, maybe even just get a decent content audit in place.
Sure.
Depending. That's at a pretty high level still. I'll try to pin this down. Well, I need to pin it down soon. Where has this year gone? But that's where I'm thinking about it at this point. So not calling it user journeys, but support work for that.
Okay. Any feedback or thoughts from other folks who will be? Well, sorry. Just any feedback or thoughts on what Jennifer shared about content for doc sprints? So I guess my question is about when it comes to what that work will look like at the doc sprint. How will we know which issues or which PRs are I guess which issues are good to work on? Have you thought about a specific label to apply to issues to designate them as being suitable for? You're making the face that says no. So I will make a suggestion that I've added a help wanted label to the repo, and that applying help wanted would be a good way to parse out that content.
Yep. I'll take any and all suggestions for how to identify stuff in GitHub as appropriate for the doc sprints.
When we say like participant structured, what do we mean by that?
Okay, so that is a separate. That's a different thing. So
okay, yeah, we'll come back to that.
Okay. If anybody has better suggestions for how to identify issues that are suitable for doc sprints, I mean, a repo label seems really straightforward. But if you know a better way to do it, I'm totally happy to adopt that.
All for repo labels, like good first issue sort of labels, that sort of thing. Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Just making a note for help wanted. Okay. So Jared, to move on to your question. So the way that we have the doc sprint structured right now is that we will have 2 rooms. We have registered. We're allowing up to 36 people to register for this event, with the understanding that people will not attend for whatever reason. And the way that we're thinking about structuring the doc sprint is to have one room that's dedicated to a structure that we provide. So in this case, the working on the user journeys, and have that to be sort of the collective work of the room. And then in the other room, and that's what we're calling sort of SIG structured, a SIG structured sprint, where the SIG is providing the structure. And in the other room, we're thinking about having that be more of a participant structured flow of work. And so by participant structured, we mean that people may come to this doc sprint with a particular doc axe to grind, and that they may have their own goals, either as individuals or like maybe in small teams, for improving specific aspects of the documentation that are important to either like that user or to the small team. And so providing support for users to consult with each other on their own sort of initiatives for doc sprints. Jared, you and I talked about this yesterday a little bit, and you pointed out rightly that it's possible for that to be very problematic, that users could go, or participants could go sort of wildly out of bounds. We could end up with like a torch and pitchfork situation where folks come in and say, "Hey, your doc sucks," and unless we have very specific notions of boundaries about how to confine or how to respond and how to confine potential attempts to go out of bounds of we're going to, it's possible that participants could come in, like a block of 10 could come in and say, "Hey, we're going to add automation to this thing that has never been automated before."
I mean, just to be clear, I just like that's a fair assessment. I do think when I think about how you're going, like, if a group self-selects into these 2 categories of user journeys or participant structured projects, ideally, like, the goals that we want are the people who know Kubernetes really, really well to pick user journeys. We should probably tell people, because people won't know what to pick. And as good tech writers, we should actually give them as much guidance as possible to prevent too much cognitive overhead. So I think when it comes to things like user journeys, we want people who are most familiar with the product to choose it, because they're the ones who are going to be able to provide us with a lot of guidance in how they use it, and also people who can sort of test out that theory. I think with, if I take that group aside and then examine who's left, we have a lot of people who probably don't know the product very well and just want to get started and contribute to something and help out. So I would be very careful about putting the onus on them to design their own project, because they're not going to know what they want to do. And so they might suggest things that are either not productive or not very useful to us, or not within our own boundaries and goals for the doc sprint. So I'm fine with the wabi-sabi approach to, like, hey, why don't you come with some of your own ideas and we'll run with them. But it's important that we put some boundaries and guidelines and goals around what those are before we hand it off to folks to work on.
So did we collect any information about doc sprint attendees beyond what?
I've got a sign-up list of all the folks and the companies that they're from.
So that's it. That's all we have. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't ask them personal details. I mean, that's just
right.
Figure from, like, the level of experience that they have and stuff like that.
No. But there is publicly available information, and some of you know my background, so you won't be surprised to hear that I just checked on LinkedIn 3 names just drawn at random. 2 of them are execs, right? One of them is a content designer, so more of a tech writer person. But I looked at that list of names. I thought I vaguely recognized one or two. I was surprised to see them on the list. And that's why I'm thinking that we might, I'm not prepared to do this right now. I just did these lookups during the meeting. But we might want to think about some further options too, depending on just who we get.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah, one thing that we had considered was going through the list of actionable issues that are open right now and assessing whether or not they're sort of well-bounded, fully discovered, and would make for issues that could be easily accomplished within the scope of a doc sprint, and applying the good first issue label to that, and having that be the mechanism that we can use to guide people who are showing up and are willing to help but don't really have a lot of pre-existing structure, or to folks who are just wanting to get started as contributors, and having that be an available pool. And I had thought about if folks think that's a good idea, I would ask for like a little bit of help, whether that's 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour, somewhere between now and KubeCon, to go through that list of actionable issues, and just try to assess and apply the label for good first issue to things that you think would be easily accomplished within a doc sprint.
To Jennifer Rondeau's point, I think I think we could reach out to folks in advance and maybe ask them like what they want to, like, we have all their emails. We might as well just ask them like what they want out of it and what they're going to get proactively. It seems like that's what you were hinting at, Jennifer. I mean, we could.
I hadn't quite got there. It was after I raised my point that I thought, oh, wait a minute, we do have a way of getting in touch with them ahead of time. We can also provide them, suggest that if they're not sure what their expectations are, that they go take a look at, like maybe send out the email after we get the label applied to the issues. Suggest that they take a look at the issues list and see whether those issues map to anything like what they're expecting or what they think issues are. I'm not, put it maybe a little less, I'm not quite, the tone of that would need to be carefully considered.
Thank you so much for participating in the doc sprint and contributing to our content. We would love to have your assistance on and your input on what you like to get out of this event, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. But and if you want some sense of how we've been thinking about it, or how others have been thinking about it, here's the issues list, and we've tagged them with things that we think folks might want to work on during the sprint, something like that.
Yeah.
What happened with the glossary stuff? Is that still on the table?
I mean, that seems like a really good fit.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yes.
I think that's the most well scoped and structured and easiest to get into, because they just need to find a definition and create the files. It's pretty. It's good for if they're just learning the workflow and stuff, and it's not too complicated.
Andrew,
I feel like that should be the default.
I'll probably need to add more documentation about how the glossary works, just because there's been helper stuff added in recently. But if you need help, I can get that in before December. So.
Yeah, but even if they just look at what's there and kind of do monkey see, monkey do, I think that
this should be relatively sufficient. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a really well scoped out project, and maybe if there's additional work that we want folks to do. And maybe when we reach out to people, we can say here are some projects that we're considering. What would you like to get out of it? If we want that sort of feedback, we can solicit it. But I like the idea of the glossary and user journey seem like two really well scoped out projects for folks.
It is entirely possible that I am overthinking the hell out of this.
I'm right there with you, Zach.
Easy.
Not really possible.
Easy for us.
Probable.
Great idea.
Well, I'm sorry. When I see an executive director at JP Morgan Chase on the list of people who've signed up, I start thinking, oh, this might be interesting. Or it might just be somebody who comes and does something passive. I mean, I don't know. You know, it just.
One other thing that I want to make sure that like this is also fun for folks to do. Like people are gifting us their time. I also want to get their feedback on things and like how we're doing. Is it like, does our process work? Does it make sense? Like, what are your first impressions? That sort of thing. I also want to keep it fun. So if there's ideas of like ways to like make this fun and interesting for the folks who are attending, I'm all ears. So
Blood sport. 2 PRs enter, 1 PR leaves.
If people, if you want them to be able to contribute like immediately, if you're going to send them out an email, one nice thing to do might be to say, hey, make sure you have a GitHub account, make sure you've signed a disclosure, whatever it is, that thing you have to sign. I'm just getting into it myself. I'm trying to, actually I was going to try to do a glossary term just to see if I could do your process. So maybe if you could define the process, people would come in, you don't have to do that startup stuff before they get there.
Excellent. You have, that is in fact exactly what we have talked about. So we listed having a GitHub account as a prerequisite that went out in the program blurb. But that is, signing the license agreement is something that we had already hit on as part of the message that we send out to participants, just saying, hey, if you can sign this in advance, that would be awesome, because otherwise it could be
the friction point.
The first hour of a sprint, just walking people through the licensing process. So yeah, no, that's a great idea, Chris. So, you know, user journeys and glossaries sound like a really great, well-scoped place. And if users want to come with their own, you know, with their own particular docs to improve, that's great. I think we can support that, but let the initiative for that rest with the users rather than making things more complicated than necessary. Does that sound reasonable to folks? I guess the only thing that I want to be, that I would like to nail down sooner rather than later is how we will present the glossary. So like we talked with user journeys, we talked about going through and identifying pieces of the project that Steve has already laid out and adding the help wanted label to those issues. Do we want to do something similar with the glossary? Do we want to open glossary issues for specific terms? And do we want to open like one massive issue and then have people open PRs against that?
There's an existing issue with the list of terms that need to be added.
Perfect.
So we can start with that. And then also if people are like, oh, you know, fairly new to Kubernetes and they're like, oh, what's that term? Like I hear it thrown around a lot, but I don't know what it is exactly. They can kind of do some research and, you know, get the definition and then do that. Because I think that would be interesting to them and also help them learn as a new user, you know.
Absolutely.
And it would be fantastic, like, information just about new users for ongoing contributors too.
Yeah, no, that's a great way. It's de facto user journey improvement. So cool.
I'll drop the link for the existing issue in the notes.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. All right. So I want to get to the rest of the pieces in the doc sprint. So reviewers, if you are not going to be attending KubeCon, but you still want to be involved, as it turns out, we're going to need reviewers for all of the PRs that people at this doc sprint open up. So if you're going to be available during the time window of the doc sprints, Jared, do you know what time on the days of, or like what time and which days we're scheduled for at KubeCon for the doc sprints?
Let me double check.
Sure. If you are going to be available during that time, we would love to have you as reviewers for the PRs that doc sprint participants open up. And it just occurs to me that I have not prepared any mechanism by which you can indicate interest. So let's see, what's the best way? If you want to send me like a direct link, send me a direct message in Slack if you are available as a reviewer. that would be great. Or if you want to just indicate in chat.
So I have a 1 to 5 p.m. scheduled, so 4 hours. That's Austin time, so that's Central time. So, yeah.
Which
Your
day?
times will vary accordingly. I'm not going to announce off everyone's time zones.
Which day is that, Jared?
It's Tuesday, December 5th.
Okay. Make a note of that. So if you are available from 1 to 5 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, December 5th, and you want to be a reviewer, awesome. I'm just making a note about this in the agenda really quick. Okay. Radhika contacted me yesterday. She had some ideas for the doc sprints. She suggested that we do custom t-shirts for SIG Doc attendees. I've never done custom t-shirts before. I don't know if we have the budget for custom t-shirts. Jared, do we have cashola for custom t-shirts?
I don't think so, but we can gladly give. So in the past, I've just like the CNCF has a mountain of swag, and what makes it great is that you just give people a code and they punch it into the CNCF website, and then they get swag. So, and I can send people a link to the CNCF store. But it's what we did for
size.
What's that?
And they can choose their own size. So
They
you
can
don't
choose
have
their
to
own
like
size. They can choose gender if we choose to do T-shirts, or we could also do like water bottles or notebooks and whatever. I'll bring stickers for folks. I know that isn't super exciting, but it's easy to pack, and I've got a mountain of them at my desk. So.
Speak for yourself. I'm a sticker junkie. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that just working through CNCF's existing mechanism for dispensing swag just seems like the better way to go, especially on short notice.
Yeah, Sarah Novotny's already done a mountain of work on this, and I'm just going to ride her coattails because she's already solved this problem. So done.
Excellent. Okay, let me get back to the agenda. Radhika has also offered to boost visibility of the doc sprints through social media outreach. The doc sprints are sold out, but I see no harm in boosting its presence and in doing some social media outreach for it. And so, unless anybody is like, stop outreach, it seems like a good idea. Any thoughts on social media outreach? Huh? Seems pretty straightforward.
What's the goal of that specifically? If we're ready, we're at capacity, right, for the attendees for the sprint?
I think the goal is, I don't know what Radhika's goal is in particular. It's not to fill attendance slots. I think it's to boost visibility that, hello, yes, we are SIG Docs. We will be doing this thing. And you, even if you can't attend, you should at least come glad hand us, or come by and say hello, and we can at least meet and talk. So it's I don't know what you call that in marketing speak. Visibility, branding.
I think there's some benefit to letting people know that there's organized, systematic work going on the docs. I swear to God, if I hear one more person just saying, "Go, my God, the docs suck," with absolutely no awareness of the work that's been done, large amounts of work, right, to re-architect and to redo the site and work that continues, and the number of people who are coming in, all of that. I think just letting people know that systematic, sustained attention is being given to the docs is a very good thing.
Then I think we should frame it as, sort of a PR thing where it's like, come by and talk to us about the docs. We're working on it. Like, if you have any questions or feedback or whatever, because then we can, then it's not specifically about the sprint itself, but just like, a point of contact.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, no, that's totally reasonable.
Right. And Jennifer, I mean, my favorite tactic is when somebody says, oh, you know, this sucks or that sucks or whatever. I love to just look at them and go, I am so glad you said that. Come with me. We need someone to help us make them better. Tell us exactly what you know.
Yep.
Yes.
Just one step closer.
Yes. It only happens once.
Yep.
Usability for SIG. Okay. Radhika also suggested doing a usability study. I would love to do a usability study, but I don't want to do one in the context of KubeCon. I think that's a lot of work. I think that a usability study, well, okay, so here's the thing. I think it's like KubeCon is going to be a great opportunity to to poll folks, to visit with folks, and just to get really good qualitative data. Like what is your experience been like with SIG Doc or with Kubernetes Docs? You know, yeah, qualitative data. I think that's going to be a great opportunity. But in terms of like an actual usability study, I just don't see that being feasible within the window that we have. And I would love to do a usability study, but I'd like to like do it justice. So I don't know, thoughts about usability studies and sort of maximizing the benefit of like being present as SIG participants at the SIG?
I personally think we should wait till after user journeys gets out the door, because we're already addressing some things we know are issues. So I think it'd be more helpful, like once it's done, to see how we can improve upon that. And then we should also team up with our UX people so we can get maybe better guidance, or like you know, do a more comprehensive one.
I love.
Yeah, having run a UX study at Write the Docs a couple years back, it really, 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 really helps to have like AP studies and gather data, and then you know, actually have some analysis that you give feedback to the community with. So I just don't think we're ready for that.
Okay. Cool.
But we should definitely solicit from the community, like when we talk about user journeys, just do this informally. So we talk about user journeys, get feedback, like, are there additional user journeys that we should include here that you're thinking of, and like, you know, frame questions set to help us in these projects.
Agreed. I think that's that would be really awesome. If we want to, I don't know, if we want to like pool our resources closer to KubeCon and just have like a small set, maybe like 3 or 4 primers for conversation about to elicit that kind of feedback. Maybe we can talk about that. But I don't know that we need to devote a whole lot of effort to it. Just be ready to have conversations about, just ready to spark conversations and then listen to what people say. Okay, anything else to say about doc sprints at KubeCon? All right, let's move on to tech reviews in the repo. So I have noticed that even though so about a month or 2 ago, we put together a list of tech reviewers who are available for particular domains of expertise in Kubernetes Docs. And that has proven to be less helpful than I hoped. So I would like for us to get to the place where we have a decent and well-maintained list of people who are capable of providing tech reviews for documentation. And I don't know the best way to go about that. So do folks have thoughts about how we can actually get a good list of tech reviewers, ways to approach people, ways to maintain that list? What can we do to get to where we're getting tech reviews in a timely fashion?
Well, I can think of 2 things. One, we can work with Paris Pittman to contact the different SIG leads to get the list of tech reviewers for their particular SIG. The other thing to do would, instead of having us look through each list and like pick out a reviewer, we could try using like the @mentions for SIGs, like specifically to ask for a reviewer from that SIG, and then they maybe can self select.
The SIG contrib X or the working group for contrib experience is trying to start out a program around mentoring and mentorship, specifically with a couple of areas. One, new contributor to member, but also getting members up into reviewing and approving. And I think this is an area where maybe if some of those people as part of the mentorship process took on some so-called janitorial type work, but had some visibility on what's going on in documentation, they could act as a liaison, and that bridges them. So again, that's something that Paris is working on.
Awesome. So we could, that's a chance for us to work on her existing project as well. Cool. Thank you, Tim. Okay, so working with Paris Pittman to get a list of reviewers.
And she's at my office today, so I can go talk to her. And
oh, perfect.
If you want.
Awesome. Yes, please. Thank you, Andrew. And tying into Paris's project with SIG Contribex and the mentorship process there. That's a really good idea. Any other thoughts, suggestions, ideas for maintaining a good tech reviewer list? Okay.
I think in our main repository there are owners filed to assign approvers or reviewers. So can we add some owners filed at the main repository? Does this?
Do you mean for Kubernetes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
there are. Yeah, there are owners filed in each package, and the guys in the owners filed are reviewed or approved of the package. So I guess we can add those owners filed in our repository, and when the PR touch some package. Touch some doc in the package, the approver or reviewer can be automatically assigned.
That's excellent. Thank you. That's a really good suggestion. We'll check the owner's file in Kubernetes and use that as a basis as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
So wait, you mentioned automatically assigned. Like, how would that work? So what you're saying is if there's a PR in our docs repository, right, and it's related to a package in Kubernetes, like we should have like a mechanism that will like auto assign a reviewer that's like an owner of that package?
Yeah. In the KK repository, when a PR change some files, and the file is in some package, and that package will I think the Kubernetes robot will assign an assignee or approver to that PR. I think it uses the test infra automation process.
Oh, so we should talk to the people that work on the robots to make adjustments. So we could like tell the robot to go crawl the package and give us back the owner, so we can assign that person as a reviewer.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me talk to the who is it? The test infra people that are in charge of the bots?
I think you can. Okay, wait a minute. I think this guy we can talk to him.
Oh, CJ, Peter's added a note to
CJ Wagner.
CJ Wagner.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, is that a conversation you want to follow up on?
Sure, especially if they are here. Let me find out where they are.
Sure thing. All right. That is it for our agenda. Is there anything else that folks would like to discuss? All right, 3, 2, 1. That's a SIG meeting. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank
Have a good
you.
week.
Bye.